Hello, 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 hello. It's
Hi,
Friday again. It's lunch talk time.
here we
This
go
time
again.
around, we actually got international, I want to say. So I got a few DMs asking me if we could do this in English because apparently the YouTube transcription is not great. Probably especially because we use a bunch of words that are not too common for YouTube.
Yeah.
So this time around, we're doing it in English, in a foreign language. So let's see how that goes. I'm quite used to that myself, so I think it will go great.
Yeah.
And why don't we kick this off with a little news piece, which also explains the dark rings under my eyes. So just recently, I think it was yesterday, an interview came out of Peter Steinberger, who is the creator of OpenClaw, aka Moldbot, aka CloudBot, aka the thing that got renamed quite often. And actually, in the interview, he explains how that came to be as well, because apparently there's a bunch of squatters that steal, handles from you, steal domains from you at insane speeds. So he had to switch it twice and was close to giving up. But in general, it was a super, super interesting interview. It was on the Lex Friedman podcast. And he gave quite a bit of insight, which I thought was super fascinating. Like how this project came to be, how he landed on this. And he had this one sentence in there that I loved it. Because he was asked, how do people actually start? How do they get into AI? How do they get into this whole topic and basically catch up? And he said, oh, it's really, really easy. Just have fun. You have to play. That's the only way you get there. And that's also what I found, I have to say. That's what I'm doing this whole time, right? So yesterday I was playing late into the night with OpenClaw. I set some more things up. So I had it running before, but kind of discarded it and said, okay, it's nice as a toy. And then I said, let me get back to Cloud Code so I can actually be productive again. But what I figured out yesterday is that you can be as productive with OpenClaw as you are with Cloud Code. It's just a little bit different. The paradigm is a little bit different. And also maybe you want to also spawn some Cloud Code or Codex instances on the side if you know exactly what you'll be doing.
Okay.
But for some other things, I found it to be quite neat. So while I was happily hacking away, I said, man, I'm now having 3 projects at the same time. Can you just build me a dashboard so I can see which services are online, if the build crashed, if the page is reachable, if my like key routes are reachable and all of that good stuff, like a basic dashboard. But I didn't want to set it up myself. So I sent a voice message on WhatsApp to my bot. He heard that and said, yeah, let me get to work. And like 5 minutes later, I have my dashboard, which I now check.
Okay.
And he even suggested that this is a quite manual approach and it's not 2026 ready. And he said, I will also message you every morning, every evening, and at lunchtime telling you if everything is okay or if you need to take action somewhere. And that's quite fascinating, really, because he's really proactive with the personality I gave him.
Okay. Okay, this is really getting closer to Jarvis, right?
Actually, that's kind of what I told him. I said, did you ever see the movie Iron Man? I want to have something like Jarvis. Like I log in the morning, I say, hello, Jarvis. And then you come up and you give me the news. I also gave him some RSS feeds that I follow. And I said, every morning, like when I turn you on, just give me the morning briefing. And at night, he will start to digest the day basically and say, okay, what did we work on today? I'll find like a small optimization that I can work on. Something like, I don't know, we talked a lot about pulling some invoices from Amazon. Let me actually build a cron job for that periodically checks for that and goes off to do its job on its own, basically. And he will do that proactively because he has this prompt where it says every night at 2 a.m., go ahead and check that so that when I wake up in the morning, I find a little present in my inbox.
That's cool. I still didn't come around to check it out myself. And I'm pretty sure I would need to unlearn quite some stuff, and I would probably need to let go of some stuff. So now that when you gave that example of you put in a voice message and a finished project comes out, I mean that's a beautiful use case and it's a beautiful user experience. But I'm pretty sure at least in the beginning I would be like, okay, but what is it doing? And so stupid details, yeah, but where does it put the code? Does it know that it has to put it on he should create a new GitHub project on your GitHub and put it there and not just in some folder or whatever, you know? So what's the, yeah, how does that work?
So I gave it access to my GitHub through the GitHub CLI. So he can happily push and pull whatever he pleases to. I also said, look, here's some repositories that I don't want you to touch because those are productive repositories where it needs my supervision, basically. But he can just create new repositories as he goes. And I gave him a dedicated folder on my machine where he puts all of the things. There's, I think I said, build everything as a Node.js app with its own web server, so we can spawn them independently. And at some point, maybe we also do a build and put this into an Nginx so it doesn't spin up 20 node instances. But yeah, you can basically, in the chat, you can say, this is how it should work. And then it will start persisting that into its memories. And remember that next time it does something. Which is really, really quite fascinating to see. So I did a fun thing today as well. I had a WhatsApp chat in a group chat, and my bot only responds to me because, you know, the whole lockdown mode, I don't want anyone to tinker with it and do any funky stuff with prompt injections. And I forwarded a bunch of messages and said, what's your take on this? And it responded to that, and further along in the conversation remembered stuff that we talked about 15 minutes prior to that, and said, oh yeah, and by the way, also this is referencing this chat from before, and I know that guy over there, he's pretty critical of the whole OpenClaw thing. And and that's the really, really interesting part. You kind of see that it's developing its own personality. So I told it to have this little bit sarcastic, snarky personality because I find it funny, and to not sugarcoat me. And what is happening in the end then is that I also get responses like where it kind of glazes me and says, oh yeah, you're right, and this is so great. And when I say, are you sugarcoating me right now? It gives me a really, really upfront answer and says, yeah, I kind of was. And then it will stop doing that as well. So the bot will then basically adapt that personality to what we talk about constantly. And that is amazing to watch because you can you get a feeling for it's almost like a coworker that you talk to, and over time you build this sort of relationship.
Yeah, I see. That's great. If I understood you correctly, you also made some progress on your core project. I would say currently is Product OS, right?
Yep, that is true indeed. I'm almost launch ready. I want to say, and I have yet to write a single line of code in that project. Which also this is. If you would have told me that half a year ago, I would have said no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I keep periodically, I keep reviewing the code, looking at the outcomes, and it's not half bad. Like I probably in the rush that I'm in, I wouldn't have written better code than that. And I also found a bunch of new agent skills actually, where I feed it back to Claude and say, hey, every time we finish a feature, go in there, check if we can refactor anything, because you know it kind of gets verbose at some times. But then when you give it that self-check loop, so to speak, that feedback loop, it will actually start self-correcting. And as such, I now have, again, an almost finished product that is, about to be launched after I do the whole legal dance here in Germany. And basically, most of it was written by Claude Code. And I'm now doing a little bit of pen testing as well. I don't know if you've seen that before, but there's a new tool. It's called Shannon. Basically like Claude Code, but for ethical hacking.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, that's kind of smart. Let me use that to see if I can penetrate my own application, because then I know if Claude Code screwed up somewhere and have like a pocket pen tester with me.
Okay, great.
And
yeah,
it's also quite interesting. Don't know if we talked about this before. I think so, but let me just reiterate on that. We talked about how agents work today, right? So the whole topic around what do you want to do? Like, is it text first? Do you use tool calls and so on and so forth? And the thesis that I had when building Product OS is that everything is text first and agents just talk to each other, basically, which, by the way, is also pretty much how OpenClaw functions. And I do believe also AMP code works a lot in that way. So you have this kind of harness, but then everything that happens in between is just agents talking to each other. And that really works impressively well in Product OS as well. So I really, really see a lot of positive progress in that way. And I do have a bunch of features in there now. So I introduced this new flow mode, which is kind of like talking to the LLM provider of your choice. And I have a coding agent in there that then talks to a review agent, and they are also able to pull specs and user research and so on and so forth. And it goes back and forth, but text only.
Do you want to show it, or is it?
Sure. Give me 1 second here to share my screen. Here we go. Quick infinite mirror. And then we go here. So maybe to, again, give a quick overview of what I'm building here. So when I worked as a head of product, I pretty much always had the same problems in terms of people get swamped in busy work, in the grunt work, as some people call it. And I wanted to really, really get rid of that, because I do think the real work of a product manager lies in defining strategy, talking to customers, really understanding on a deep level what moves people when they use the product and how we can improve that. So this right here is aiming to solve all of that. I know that sounds like a lot, but what it really does is provide a bunch of agents that do the discovery work, that help you write the specs, that help you write the go-to-market strategy, and help you even write code. So you as a product manager can go from idea to feature or idea to MVP in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And let me sign in here so you can see it as well. What I can do here in the flow mode, and you can see that this has failed because I canceled out of it when we previously talked about it. Basically, I can tell it to look into a repository. So I mention the coding agent, and I say, hey, can you check if we can add a subscription model to the billing? And then it will actually start a sandbox, clone the coding repository, and will use Claude Code to work on it. So basically what I'm trying to do is pull all of that into the cloud so that non-technical people can also work on it. And it also combines with any other agent that I have in here, right? So I could also now use the review agent or whatever. And any other agent that is in here. So let me... Whoops, wrong button. Let me open up a new chat right here. You can see that I tinkered a lot with this, but because now I don't even find the buttons myself anymore. So let's say, for example, hey, I want to build a new app that invites guests to our weekly lunch talk. Use the spec agent and write a spec for that. And then I can kick it off, and basically the next agent goes off and does something. You can see we have a weekly lunch talk guest invitation app going right here, and we'll actually start writing that spec that I then can use to, go on and code. Then all of this that you see here, I'm gonna say 99% of what is in here and what I wrote is built with Claude Code, which to me at least it's quite amazing, because it can do a bunch of things, right? So not only does it have this mode, you can also do like this discovery work where it will go into all of your user feedback and your internal feedback from salespeople and so on and so forth, and do a steady analysis every, I think, 30 minutes of what it thinks is the most important work item to work on. And then you can say, work on this, and you can either take the imagine mode, go from idea to spec, where it starts a bunch of other agents, or you can take it right into flow mode to, do the whole shtick of what I just showed and basically do it yourself, right? So this is a very guided mode where it kicks off all of the relevant agents, and then you get an output at the end. And let me maybe show that as well. And can basically hand off to Cursor or any tool of your choice and do it there, or take that specification and basically go to your devs, so to speak.
Yeah. You just touched upon something where my naive hope was that I have something new for you, but of course I don't have something new for you, but maybe for the people that are listening to us. And I think it was in the Discover area where you touched upon how a project or a product is not just, created, ramped up, and then launched. Projects are continuously improved, of course.
Yep.
And I, in the last couple of days, I wondered if maybe are we at a point where, within certain limits, of course, can software basically improve itself continuously? So what we do what we did in the past is we launch a product, we launch a project, we launch an application, whatever, and we find bugs ourselves, or users report bugs, or users just use the product, and this creates telemetry, right? You get logs, you get KPIs, crash reports, whatever. People are writing to your support email address and say, hey, I have a problem here, or hey, it would be great if this and that. And maybe we are at a point where we can put this in kind of an infinite loop where you launch your product and it creates and collects all this kind of telemetry. And I don't know, every 24 hours or whatever, you feed it back into your product builder, just like you feed back outside information to your software engineering team and say, hey, here are 3 emails from customers that have a problem. Here are some log entries that look problematic, and so on and so on. And create this feedback loop where then, and just as you showed, is, okay, what's the 3 most important things that we should work on now? Yeah? If we get 100 emails, support emails in 24 hours, and 90 of those emails talk about an issue in the billing, probably we should look into the billing, right? And but maybe we can go even a step, or it automatically gets a step further, because I don't know how good humans are at scrolling through pages and pages of HTTP request logs, heat maps from heat map tools, whatever, and then can distill this down to, oh, that button should go on the other page, actually. Yeah, and this is something that I can imagine agents could be really good at, crunching all those data and say, okay, this should be our next feature. We should drop that feature. We should modify this feature, right?
Yeah, totally. And to be quite honest, I have prepared that in ProductOS, but I think that scares a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Because you're totally not in the driver's seat anymore. So currently, just because I think it's a better go-to-market strategy, to be honest with you, I don't do that, but it would be capable of doing that already. Because if you take that data, that cron job that is running to do the whole discovery work, you can just say, whenever that is done, trigger the coding agent and fix it right away. That would be perfectly possible today. But I still want to have the human in the loop, as it's called, to say, this is actually something I want to work on. But I could put in a toggle in the settings called YOLO mode, where you just say, okay, I don't care, just Go ahead and do it, and that would totally work.
Yeah.
And by the way, also interesting piece of news that came out this week or last week. I think it was OpenAI that said that GPT 5.3 Codex, I know the naming is super bad, but that's what the model is called.
Yeah.
This is the first model where the LLM wrote the majority of the code used to train it. And yeah, absolutely. I see this and I see the flywheel effect behind it. And that's why I'm super glad that I'm not a developer anymore right now, because I think there's a whole lot of figuring out we have to do, right? We talked about this before, and I think this is perfectly possible. The question at the end of the day is, how many feedback loops do you need until you get to a desirable outcome? How much compute do you need until you have something you're confident in shipping? But at the end of the day, how I view it currently, it doesn't cost an awful lot to do all of this inference work. You could also tell it to give me 3 variations as a solution to that problem and put in a PR. That would also work.
Absolutely.
And every time you open your laptop in the morning, the top 10 bugs are fixed and you have 3 variations per bug. It would be perfectly feasible on a $200 OpenAI or Claude subscription.
Absolutely. And I mean, also, and this is just a detail, and it's absolutely solvable, but it's a critical detail. I'm sure it's a typical shit in, shit out, or gold in, gold out problem, right? If you don't feed it all the relevant telemetry, if you only give it half your support email messages, it's probably going to be wrong. But that's true for human teams too. If you only give them the support emails but never give them access to the production logs, then they will make the wrong calls, right? But if you set this up as a native, as a first-class citizen, this telemetry loop or whatever you would call it, if you set this up in a good, correct, clean, structured way, why not? Right?
100%, and that's also why I built Product OS the way I did. It has integrations into all sorts of systems. So it talks to Intercom, it talks to Salesforce, it talks to GitHub, Linear, Slack, the list goes on, yeah? So you can just basically give it as much context as you desire.
Yeah.
Of course, we also hit an upper limit there at some point because too much information is also not good. That's why I'm trying to build clever mechanics inside of the tool that basically try to avoid the diminishing returns. But you could do that today, right? I can just hook up my support inbox from Intercom to it and say, hey, whenever we have at least, 20 reported incidents of the same bug, just go ahead and fix it right away. And just give me the pull request.
Yeah.
That would work perfectly already.
Okay, that's really interesting. All right. Time flies by. We are already at the final 5 minutes. So maybe some space for some smaller stuff. I can give a very it's really small compared with what you presented, but I think it's a very basic pattern, and it's a very good example to you how to use this pattern. Let me see if I get the clicking on buttons thing right. Share this window. Yeah, sounds good. So this is a new feature in my side project, Site Builder, and really it's nothing revolutionary, but it's something that clicked for me in the past couple of days. And as I explained last time, this is basically it's a content management system. So you can the core feature is that you can say, I have different landing pages here, and I want to work on them as a non-developer. I want to change something in this page, or I want to create new pages, this kind of stuff. So typically a typical content management system, but agent-based, chat-based, this kind of stuff. It's like a really stripped down Cursor or Claude Code in the browser for non-technical people. And of course, you want to work with image assets too. And of course, it has a feature where you can go, okay, here is an image, and I want to use this image, and I want to reference this in the chat, and all very basic. And from the get-go, I was thinking about, of course, you somehow want to create images in this tool too, using Nano Banana, for example, which is state of the art right now. at least this week. And but I also hesitated. I thought, yeah, okay. I mean, I can give users another chat window, and in this chat window, they can say, I want a picture of a woman standing at a desk, blah 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 blah. And then it clicked on me that I can simply build a chain or a hierarchy or a cascade of agents where I can simply go and say, I want the system, or I need images for my, sorry, it's German, Hoch-Tiefbau. I mean, you can see on the images what that means. I don't know the English word. And I already have the page. That page has content. And now I need 3 good images that match the content, that are just a good extension of what the page talks about. And yeah, that's the simple and straightforward solution. It only took me some time to understand, is that I can simply go and start a first agent where I say, you are a friendly agent, blah, blah, blah. Here is the content of a web page. Analyze the content and then give me 3 prompts that are going to put into the next agent, the image generation agent, and make sure that those are 3 good prompts that will make me end up with 3 good images for this particular page. Really simple, but this is what made it click for me and what made it into a usable feature for me.
Yep.
And so if I need 3 images, I don't need to have 3 chat sessions. I don't need to write 3 prompts. I just need to click one single button, and then I have 3 images. And then I can still go into the details and say, I don't want, I want a blue, I don't know if there are blue vests, but I can say, no, I want to have this blue because corporate identity or whatever.
Right.
And then I can go into the details. But going from, I have a great landing page and now I need great images, is just a cascade, small cascade actually, of one text generator and one image generator, and it's a one-click solution. And it's a pattern that really clicked for me and that I'm going to use more in the future, certainly.
Right, so I have 2 questions. Let's get the most important one out of the way first.
Yeah.
How the heck did you manage to get that Gemini API key? Because it always fails on me. Every time I try to get the API key,
it's so great. I went to at least 2 Google accounts that got immediately blocked because obviously I did something illegal. I don't know. At the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I paid money, obviously, and it's Google always.
I mean, I did that as well, but
it's so
they just
weird.
don't let me do anything, which is
there is AI Studio, then there is Gemini, but there is also Google Cloud, and
the Cloud Console is needed to set it up. Yeah. No, they can go hand in hand basically, because I swear to you, I sat in front of this for 3 or 4 hours before I gave up, which is really, really sad because Gemini has some absolutely great models.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they actually approved me now, so I can get this API key, but this was so frustrating. Okay, anyways, no Google bashing, but it's just, I wondered, do you have the magic sauce that I don't have? But
no, not
like
really.
You had the same
At the end
problem.
of the day, I took an old Google account
right.
of mine, and I don't know, maybe because the moon was in the correct phase or whatever, it just worked, and I got I got the credit card through, and then I think it was on the Gemini page that I could create an API key. I didn't have to go into Google Cloud at all. I always thought I need some project in Google Cloud, but I didn't need it. It's so weird.
Maybe that's where I'm ending up wrong. Okay. And second question is, how are you actually triggering the second agent? Because I think that's quite interesting. The way I do it, I have a mixed mode, basically, like the guided mode I showed. It's doing it implicitly, and then I have this explicit mode. But how it works at the end of the day is that I just look into the user prompt and say, okay, what do I need to extract here?
Yeah.
Which agents do I need to kick off? Do you also do something like that?
I think I have a different approach, and we already talked about how we should do a session on this 2 approaches the next time, maybe. So basically, this first agent gets a prompt and yada, yada, yada. And I I provide a tool, a specifically created tool for this use case. The tool, so to speak, lives in my web application. So when so I instruct the first agent to use this tool, deliver image prompts actually. It's singular, so it makes 3 tool calls. So I have this kind of asynchronity, and I explain how to use the tool. But and when it triggers that tool, that's actually code from my application. So it's simply, in this case, it's simply at the end of the day, it boils down to a PHP function call. Yep. And from this on, and the input is the prompt, obviously, that was generated. And so this is how I can wire together the agentic and non-agentic aspects of the application.
Interesting. And like what's on my head or on my mind right now is, this is very, I want to say, almost deterministic, right? You're doing this every time, no matter what the user says. They don't have a way of saying, I just need the copy, I don't need the images. So it's a little bit more harnessed, I want to say, which is not inherently a bad thing. I'm just pointing it out. And I think, so for me at least, the magic sauce is that I just message the agent and it kind of figures out on its own what it should do. Like, what skills should I use? What agents should I call? So my approach is to, I want to say, basically just make it obvious to the agent what it can and cannot do. But as you saw in my demo, I also do an add mention right now, because the system where I basically pick it automatically, that doesn't work all that great. But I do know that it can work, right? Claude Code does a pretty good job at it. OpenClaw can do it. So there has to be a way. And I was curious if you already have it figured out, basically.
All I can say is that for me, I'm probably a bit later in the game than you, and for me it's still like, oh, now we go to the agent, now the magic happens. Right. I still don't see it as a native part of the application in a sense, and I like to have those structured guardrails, or clear integration points, however you want to call it, right?
I think this is part of a natural evolution, I have to say, right? So I also had that. I don't even want to call it learning curve. It's more like how familiar are you with the whole agentic topic? And for me, I'm at the point where I completely trust the model, because it never fell through for me, right? So I learned to trust the model, and I learned to basically talk to it in a way where it just magically works. I almost want to say it, like you get into this almost symbiotic relationship. But at some point I also said, I really want to control this, because I want to make sure that it's using the right tool at the right time, and it always should do that. And this is how I want to say you end up with the screens you have currently, because it's a natural evolution, right? You have dedicated screens almost per feature. Whereas now I'm trying to get to that point where I say, nope, I just have one screen and all of the intents are automatically detected. And that, at the moment, I want to say is still a bigger piece of work, because obviously here you can just say, okay, this is exactly what needs to happen. I just need one good system prompt and I'm good. I almost have to rely on how well the LLM providers are doing, like in terms of tool discovery and all of that good stuff, which, to be fair, the models are getting way, 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 way better at that. But it's also a tougher task to solve. But it's also the magical experience, right? At the end of the day, if you just type something in and the tool will say, awesome, let me call this, that, and that agent, and I'll just solve your problem, and you're none the wiser. You just tell me what you want to do. That's where I want to land. But it's also a bit tougher still to solve that.
Yeah. But as I said, that's probably the part of letting go, right?
Letting go,
that I probably need to have some more iterations on.
And also, I'm a full-on clanker these days, I fully embrace my agentic overlords.
So when you have solved the problem of getting a freaking Google API key, then you are entering a world of timeouts and non-deterministic errors and so on. And as soon as the USA wakes up, you have, we are over capacity right now, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
It's so, it's a bit frustrating, but it also shows how, I mean, we are talking about Google, for God's sake, and they are over capacity. What the hell? So you can see how many people are obviously playing around with this kind of building. Kind of this stuff.
And I would imagine they probably reserve some resources for themselves, right? So
of course,
based on the plan you're on and so on and so forth. Because there has to be a way to also make this work consistently, I want to say, but that is probably locked behind contracts, business plans, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's you can still tell it's early days, right?
Right. Okay. That's it from my side. I just have this tiny little thing I talked about. Should I show it? It's a kind of very different use of an agentic coding system.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I see there is a huge lag in the video, but never mind. I think it's coming up any minute now. So I'm using Cursor. In my case, it's mostly Cursor for the obvious thing. I'm building software. Yeah, no surprise. But you can do funny things with it also. And I had this situation where I now want to create some marketing materials for SiteBuilder, and I want to create some fancy videos and this kind of stuff. And I'm a coder, right? I don't know how to use creative tools. I don't know how to use Adobe After Effects. This is probably what this is replacing here in an awkward way. But you can do funny things with Claude also. But this was an interesting case because you can kind of like build a full SaaS application in 5 minutes. But this thing here took like 8 hours to get right. Even with Claude, it was already Claude Opus, I think. But my approach is simple. I want a nice intro for my video. So what I do is I go to Claude Code and say, hey, create an animation with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And
I think you might have to reshare your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give another try.
So stuck on the site
really
builder.
Stuck, right? Okay. I'm gonna share again. Yep. Share this window. Yes. So here we go.
Yes. Now it's working.
And I can just just run this, and I get a nice animation. It's a bit random every single time it runs, but this is on purpose. And then I just record it, screen recording from macOS, simple, and then I have an intro.
Nice.
Like this.
You could probably also get Claude Code to build you like a download button that sits in there, right? Like where it just prepares the video for you.
I mean, as I said, it's just a static HTML page, nothing more, nothing less.
Right, but
and I need to get this into video bits and bytes, and this I do with screen recording. I cannot see it probably.
Yeah, but you have so in Chrome or Chromium-based browsers, you have a screen recording tool built into it, right? So if you use the MCP server from the DevTools, that should also work. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. That's a good
more automation.
Yeah, great. Okay, I will give this a try. It's not perfect. It's probably not visible in the stream now, but I really need to close every other application on my M1 MacBook to make sure that the animation is really smooth, that there is no stuttering, because it's just DOM elements.
Could you? Okay, because that's what I was about to ask. So if you go to Product OS, it has this animation at the top, which is also a video.
Yeah.
And that is WebGL. And WebGL works really, really well. And Claude should also be able to do this exact thing that you have there.
Good point.
In WebGL. So maybe next week you bring it as a refactored version in WebGL where everything is smooth and 60 frames per second.
I will give this a try. Yeah. But on the other hand, the interesting thing, it is really smooth. It's running really smooth, but then you have this one frame that is missing, right? But it's crazy how good CSS and stuff has become over the years, right? This
Oh
is
yeah, because
still
it now can
just
also
a web page.
load it off to the GPU, right? That's a huge improvement.
Right. Okay, thanks for the input. I will give that a try, and then I probably can present it next week. And with this, I think we are over time already.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Pushing a little bit of overtime. Perfect.
But why not?
Then I want to say we're going to be here next week, same time.
Yes.
And Thorsten is coming back next week. So we're going to be
That's
the three
great
of us
news.
again.
That's great news.
So
Cool.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good time. Bye-bye.